Yeah, it's about the bag with the triple single crew. We got Ronnie, Doc, Antonio, the real deal too. They coming and dropping knowledge, you know that they get to work. You know that triple single cover Bay Area sports. You know I'm coming hard, I don't feel like I'm in a hurry. Like number 30, I really got the range like Stephen Curry. Get a couple rings, you know.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us again in this episode of at TSC Bay Area Triple Single Crew. Hope you guys have had a good week because we got some good stuff to get to today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at TSC Bay Area. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure that you guys tell us what you think. Leave some comments so that you help us and we help you, and it just makes it a lot more fun. All right, boys, a lot going on right now, especially in the world of the NBA, as we know. And speaking about who's going to be rookie of the year, whether it's going to be Wiseman, whether it's going to be Lamelo. We're thinking Lamelo at this point, even though we're Dubs fans, we'd love to see Wiseman. So my question to you fellas today is Wiseman versus Lamelo versus the rest of that NBA draft class. What do you guys think about that, Ronnie?
Um, I believe the Warriors made the right pick by picking James Wiseman. You know, coming into the draft, they didn't really have the big. I believe the tallest player was Marquise Chris, 6'10", but he's really a power forward. So I feel like, needing that 7-footer would have definitely completed that starting lineup. When completely healthy, you have Curry, you have Clay, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman. Let him develop this year, and once the Warriors have a complete team, they'll be fine. They'll make it back in the playoff contention. So I believe that they made the right pick, and hopefully, if he keeps showing up off the bench, he'll eventually get his starting spot back and he'll ball out like he's already been doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think, Doc? Is there somebody else that stands out to you other than Wiseman and Lamelo right now?
Yeah, as I think about this question that we are addressing, I think about the guys that I was really interested in heading into the draft, just not knowing what pick we were going to have, right? I think we knew we were going to have a top 10 pick. That was pretty much guaranteed, but we didn't know where exactly we would fall. And so some of the guys that I remember, I was looking at their highlight tapes, included an Anthony Edwards, who went number 1 overall to the Timberwolves. I remember I was watching LaMelo Ball a little bit more closely, specifically just some of his games out in Australia. I was also taking a look at Isaac Okoro, who ended up getting drafted by the Cavaliers. I was also looking at Onyeka Okongwu out of USC, who not a lot of people, but I saw some comparisons of Bam Adebayo. And after what we saw Bam kind of grow into, that was pretty intriguing and exciting. Yep. I also had my eyes on Killian Hayes out of France. He has a YouTube series where it kind of highlights his journey and just how serious he takes the game. And so I actually had him pretty high on my list. And I think The Ringer, which is another podcast, one of their hosts said that he thought 10 years from now, Killian Hayes was going to be the best pick that's going to have been taken. Some other guys I was also looking at was Denny Avdija out of Israel. They were saying he was kind of like a poor man's Luka Doncic. And anything related to Luka after how he balled out in the bubble, was pretty exciting. And then the last 2 guys that I kind of kept an eye on were Devin Vessel out of Florida State University, who ended up getting picked by the Spurs, and Tyrese Halliburton. And so those are some of the guys that I was really, really hoping we'd have an opportunity to pick depending on where we picked. But in regards to your question, is there someone else who I think could have been a really good fit? The guy that stands out the most, playing about 60 miles away from where I live, Tyrese Halliburton, who plays with the Kings. That guy is a stud. I think he doesn't have the same name recognition as LaMelo Ball, but they have very similar games. They both have very funny looking jump shots, but it's been going in. Tyrese Halliburton has amazing IQ. They might have around the same bounce, but they both just know how to be around the ball and how to make the right play. So I really like Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, that's the guy that I was looking at too. I mean, shooting over 40% from 3 this year. He's just dishing the ball really well. He's just a really good all around player. Just very skilled player. But still, like you said, still's got a little bit of that dynamic quality that we always talk about, So yeah, I like him a lot. And I got to say, I was also a little bit impressed with the Knicks. Quickly is really good. To me, I think that whole team, to be honest, is I think I don't know if they're up to 5th or 6th now. It is in the East, but still, I mean, they're scrappers now, man. Like you can't just chalk that up to a W every time you play them, and they're tough to play against. So I think he's done pretty well. But those are the other two that I really like. Yeah, Halliburton, I think for me right now is the only other one other than Wiseman and LaMelo. I think Anthony Edwards, I don't know if you guys saw that dunk, but holy smokes, man. I mean, this guy, I mean, athletically, we knew Anthony Edwards, like he was the athlete of the draft. And to me, he was the best player, right? I just think for us, we needed a big. And Wiseman is just such a skilled player. And I think that, he will eventually be a 20 and 10, 20 and 15 type guy. But, he's only playing less than 20 minutes a night, about 20 minutes. So he's averaging 12 and a half points. He's shooting, I believe, 40% from 3, which is crazy, but he rarely shoots them. But when he does, he makes them. So that's kind of my take. I like those guys a lot. But other than that, I'll be honest, I haven't been following like Denny Avdija. I don't know how good he was. The guys that were kind of linked to the Dubs were Denny Avdija and Devin Vassell.
Yep, he was linked to him too.
Right. So those are the two dudes that they kept linking to the Dubs. So I don't know. I kind of defer a little bit to you guys. What do you think? And is there something else about this draft class? Is there anyone that's got an outside chance to probably catch LaMelo at this point for Rookie of the Year outside of big time James?
Yeah, I say Tyrese Halliburton's probably the closest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's averaging 13 points a game, 13.2, 3.6 rebounds, 5.4 assists. I'm trying to see how many minutes he plays. I can't find that. Well, he's playing about 30, 40 minutes a game, depending on if they're going to overtime or not. So the guy's getting some run, but he's making the absolute most out of it. Let's see, his last 4 games, 16 points, 23 points, 23 points, 17 points. So he's playing well. He's playing well, shooting over 40% from 3 in all but 1 game. He struggled his last game. But aside from that, in his last 5 games, he shot over 40%, except for the last one.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to me how Sacramento is still struggling down there in terms of the standings because, man, with these guys, they got De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton. I mean, what is it, Bagley Jr., all these dudes that they've gotten, and I watch them and I said, man, they're good. Yeah. Like they've got talent. It's interesting how sometimes it's about putting it together, and maybe they're a little bit too young, kind of like what's kind of hampered the T-Wolves. It's not like they don't have some talented guys, but either they get hurt or they're just way too young. They're too green, and they need not Draymond Green, but and that's the thing. They need that development. They need some of the vets to come in to kind of stabilize that whole situation, it seems like. But I mean, in terms of talent, man, it looks like they hit it again with Halliburton. So good on them for that. And I do think he would fit in really well with us, obviously shooting the 3 ball and handling the rock. Like we can always use another guy to do that. But he definitely wouldn't be playing 30 minutes a night. Right. So that's the other thing is like, how are these guys developing and why are they developing at the rate that they are where they're at? Right.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I'd have to say that if Tyrese Halliburton was with us, I think he'd at least be getting maybe 25 minutes a night because I think he would have earned the trust to run that second unit a lot more efficiently than the guy that I will no longer say his name. And, if you've seen the last video, there's a trash can in front of his face for a reason. So I'll just keep it at that. And so, yeah, I think Tyrese Halliburton could have really strived in our offense because he moves really just fluidly. A guy that he was getting a comp to, and I don't think it's completely accurate, but Sean Livingston. And I think it's because people were connecting him to us, right? Playmaker, has some bounce, but most of all, like it's his IQ. His IQ just lets the game come easy to him.
Yeah, man, I like that. I like that comp a lot. I mean, I don't think physically they necessarily look the same or they play the same, but yeah, man, I to be honest with you, that's who I want to get another Sean Livingston. Who wouldn't want to have another Sean Livingston on their team? But just really smooth, can handle the rock, set up the offense, and then he can get you that jumper down low. Just such a smart player.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Ronnie?
Yeah, nah, I think he would strive in the Warrior system. You know,
Yep.
strict shooting. I mean, yeah, you can say it's a funky jump shot, but it works for him. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, Doc brought out the numbers. He's shooting over 40% from three. Like, you know, he's
Yeah.
which I wouldn't say he's as good as Curry, but he like moves really good without the ball in his hands. You know,
Yeah.
to
And,
you know,
and he
so
plays really well defense. He just moves so well on the court. In his last 5 games,
Right.
4 of the games he had 2 steals, 3 steals, 4 steals. His last game against Brooklyn, 4 steals. So I mean, the guy is just really active again, right? But when you have the IQ and you understand what's going to happen next, it makes it so much easier to be in the right position. And
Yep.
having said that, though, I don't want to lose the people who probably came onto this video who are most excited to hear about Lamelo Ball, who I know is just doing amazing things. And I think what's helping him really be effective is that his shot's going in. Uh,
Yeah.
Currently, let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, I can't see
shooting more
for
than
the
35
year.
three.
Yeah, let's see his last 5 games. Minus his last game, which was today. Actually, he shot 0% from three. But before that, he actually shot 71%. He went 5 for 7. He went 1 for 2 on against the Sacramento Kings. 3 for 8 against the Warriors, which is 37, and then he went 3 for 7 against the Phoenix Suns, 42%. And I don't know if y'all saw those highlights against the Suns towards the end of the game, but that guy was nasty. He was just putting on some just in a
Mhm.
clinic with dribble moves and then pulling up and hitting from distance. So the guy he just has that it factor, right? You
Yeah.
don't always know how to explain it, but the it factor is there.
Yeah, and I think, coming out, I thought, guys were comparing him to his brother a lot because of the funky shot or whatever, but he's a different player.
Yeah.
He's just like we talked about, he's quicker, he's stronger than his brother coming out.
Yeah.
He just not to keep using that same word, but it's that dynamic athleticism is just incredible, whereas his brother, he's just more lengthy, and so he used that to his advantage and still does. But yeah, man, this kid, he's much better than his brother to me. And, 19 years old, with the youngest player ever to have a triple double. I mean, again, like we talked about before, it looks like MJ finally got one right down in Charlotte. So, that's good for them. They're a scrappy team. They're going to hang in there in a lot of games. You're not going to be running away from them too many nights. And so, just keep adding around him. That's kind of what I think. They just got to keep adding pieces. And, they're kind of built for the long run at this point. But yeah, I mean, I think we also, I don't want to also just not talk too much about what Wiseman has done and what he means. I think, again, we're comparing a center to a wing, right? But to me, just the level of skill that Wiseman has also at 19 years old. And remember, like you said, Lamelo was playing over in Australia, which may as well be Europe compared to the education that the basketball education that Wiseman was getting, and he only played a couple games. So, technically speaking, yeah, like developmentally, you would expect Lamelo to be ahead, right? But I really do believe if you just look at the skill side by side for their positions, I think Wiseman is just leaps and bounds beyond what a lot of guys are, and they've been in the league for many years, right? So he'll get there. He got hurt. I think the injury again kind of threw his development back a little bit, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that I think the race is a lot closer than it seems. Like the media is like, oh, it's going to be LaMelo, but to me, I'm like, no, I think. I mean, what if Wiseman starts taking off and averaging 18 and 10 the rest of the way? Not saying it's going to happen, but if he does, he is averaging more than a block a game. He's such a factor down low. And, again, he stays healthy and he keeps developing, he leads us to top 5 seed. How are you going to discount that versus what Charlotte's doing this year too? So that's got to come into play at some point to me.
Yeah, he's literally a 7-footer that can actually shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Like that. That's just how much the game's developed. Like you have big men shooting threes like Vucevic and Jokic. So, just let him develop. Let him develop, and then he'll fit in perfectly with the healthy Warrior starting 5.
See, I think what it comes down to though is just how much are they going to let Wiseman develop, with
Right.
Curry and Clay and Draymond. And what I mean by that is that Wiseman has the ability to continue to grow with, and even just his handles. I don't know if y'all have seen some of the
Yeah.
the highlights on YouTube, and I know they're just highlights, right? So it's of course it's gonna paint a picture of all the positives, but the guy genuinely can handle the rock pretty solidly for a guy his size. And I think that it's gonna take for him to be allowed to do that to become that superstar, that elite superstar that we're hoping for. Because you also got to remember, we won 3 championships without an elite superstar center. The best center we had was Bogut, right? In 2015. 2016, he got hurt, unfortunately, I want to say in game 6, and never came back. And, you know, we know what happened in 2016. But we were able to win with Zaza Pachulia. And no disrespect to Zaza, but he was also on his last legs, too. We were able to win with Shackton Afool, JaVale McGee. We were able to win with Festus Ezeli in 2015, right? So I think because of that reason, with the way that the league has gone, it no longer has needed a Shaq type player to build around, right? Someone could maybe say, well, look, Bam Adebayo was a big impact for the Heat. Anthony Davis is really what got the Lakers over the top last year. And I hear that, but they still needed someone like a Jimmy Butler. They still needed someone like a LeBron James to really carry the load when it mattered most. And, you know, they contributed. And so I think that's why a lot of Warrior fans might be feeling like LaMelo could have been the better pick. Because what I think about and envision is, imagine LaMelo with his vision, his handles, and his passing ability with Curry and Clay off the ball. Like, that's lethal, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, especially when you see us having so much success with the small ball lineup.
mhm.
I mean, you could put 6'7" Pascal down there, or Draymond, or 6'6" Juan Toscano Anderson at center, and you'll still kind of make do with that. But I don't know if long term we would be as successful doing that. But I see what you're saying, because if we can do that, and we've done that in the past, I mean, I do think it was kind of an anomaly, right? When you had KD doing what he was doing. KD is really like 6'11".
Yeah,
I mean,
for
let's be
sure.
honest. He's basically 7 feet tall. So calling him a wing or a power forward is kind of doing
A
I don't want
disservice.
to say a disservice, but it's not really accurate. He's more Anthony Davis, but just with a lot more quickness and kind of small guard like ability, right? So, and he's just one of the all-time greats. And that's the other piece. You're right. You can win with Pachulia and Festus and all these guys, but you need to have all the other greats around them, right? And I think that's what was the difference there. I mean, you have the two best three-point shooting guards ever and the best shooter ever. Draymond in defensive player of the year mode in 2015 and 16, right? So, you had a pretty good wing in Barnes, like and then you had a good bench, so all those things work together, for sure. But I hear what you're saying. Like, it is interesting to think about, because you're like, man, what would we be doing? I mean, who knows? I mean, we may be better off in the standings right now. We may be. So it is kind of interesting to think about. What do you think, Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, LaMelo imagine just playing with Curry and Clay, like Doc said, the
Yeah.
way that those two move without the ball, it'd be lethal. But then what you brought up, real deal, long term, like, eventually, like, teams will definitely figure out what you're doing. So I think having Wiseman, being that 7-footer, being able to be down there in the paint to, just do his thing, and he can also shoot. So it opens up the floor even more. So I believe that it was the right pick, and long term it'll be good for them.
Yeah, and just to clarify, like when the draft was going on, I wanted Wiseman. And I
Yep.
think another reason why I wanted Wiseman is because when I think of a top 1 overall or top 2 overall pick, I'm also thinking about who's going to be the leader of the team down the line, right? And I know this is not basketball related, but when I would hear the interviews between LaMelo or Wiseman, like Wiseman's just presence stood out, right? And that's not to take away anything from LaMelo or to try to disrespect him, but I didn't feel like communication was his strong suit. A lot of interviews, they'd be like, "Hey, LaMelo, what do you think about this or that?" And his response sometimes wasn't even relevant to the question. And I just wondered, man, like, because of the fame and the social media and his generation, like, is he the type of guy that can rally a group of men, right, to follow his lead? And I still don't know if that's the case, right? But of course, his basketball abilities is so dynamic that I think the teammates are just like, yo, I might not be able to have a conversation with this guy, but I can step on the court with this guy. And at the end of the day, like, if you're trying to win a championship, that's all that matters. But I know that that's something that came to mind. And so I'm a big fan of Wiseman. I really hope he does develop into what we all, dream that he will be. I know you've compared him to Hakeem the Dream. I know we talked about David Robinson. And so he has some really amazing comparisons that he could potentially reach one day. But it'll really just depend on how much they allow him to grow and trust him to play the minutes necessary for him to grow.
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, and we're going to have a front row seat for it all because, we're big Dubs fans here at TSC. Thank you guys once again for joining us. And I just want to give you guys a chance. Are there any shout outs this week? I know we kind of started that off last week. So I just wanted to give you an opportunity to give any quick shout outs right now before we wrap it up.
You want to go first, Doc?
Yeah, shout out to Ronnie's his mom for getting that laptop to work now. He's officially on a MacBook, not his iPhone. And so big shout out to his mom, who's also been a big support system. And I think I might have shouted her out last week too, but just wanted to give her an extra amount of recognition for helping him get all his tech set up officially.
Right on. Thanks, Ronnie's mom. That's awesome. We really appreciate you helping out Ronnie here, and helps us out, helps the show. All right, boys, with that, I'll leave you with this. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, it's by the bag with the triple single crew. We got Ronnie, Doc, Antonio, the real deal too. They coming and dropping knowledge,